When a man is using a woman, one of the most telling signs is his avoidance of commitment. This behavior is often cloaked in excuses, deflections, or vague promises that leave her in a perpetual state of uncertainty about where the relationship is headed. His reluctance to commit is not accidental, but rather a calculated way to keep her emotionally invested while maintaining the freedom to prioritize his own needs and desires above hers. Over time, this avoidance becomes a painful cycle of hope and disappointment, leaving her questioning the relationship's authenticity. In the early stages, his unwillingness to commit may be subtle. He might avoid labeling the relationship, claiming that he wants to go with the flow or take things slow. While these sentiments can be genuine in some cases, a man who is using a woman will use them as a shield to avoid deeper accountability. He creates an illusion of openness and possibility, leading her to believe that commitment will eventually come. But his actions repeatedly contradict this notion. For example, he might dodge conversations about the future, avoid introducing her to important people in his life, or become evasive when asked about his intentions. This lack of commitment is often paired with a pattern of inconsistency. One moment, he might show just enough affection or attention to keep her invested, and the next, he pulls back, leaving her confused and anxious. This push and pull dynamic is deliberate, as it keeps her focused on winning his approval or solidifying the relationship, rather than recognizing the imbalance. By keeping her in this emotional limbo, he ensures that she remains emotionally tied to him while he enjoys the benefits of the relationship without fully investing himself. Another hallmark of his avoidance of commitment is his reluctance to share responsibilities or make decisions that signify long-term intentions. He might shy away from discussions about shared goals, joint investments, or any plans that require mutual effort and accountability. For instance, if she talks about moving in together, building a future, or even planning a trip months ahead, he might respond with vague enthusiasm but fail to follow through. This behavior reveals his unwillingness to take the relationship seriously, as he avoids any step that would tie him more closely to her. In some cases, he might use distractions or diversions to shift the focus away from his lack of commitment. He could emphasize his career, personal issues, or past relationships as reasons why he isn't ready or needs time. While these explanations might seem valid at first, they often become repetitive and unchanging, serving as convenient excuses to keep her waiting. Calculating that relationship later, she decides if it's meeting her worth to commit to it. Meanwhile, he continues to enjoy the benefits of the relationship without offering the emotional security or clarity she deserves. What makes this behavior particularly damaging is the emotional toll it takes on the woman. Over time, she may start to question her own worth, wondering if she is enough or if she is doing something wrong to prevent him from committing. This self-doubt can erode her confidence and sense of self, leaving her feeling unbalanced and uncertain. The longer she remains in this dynamic, the more invested she becomes, making it harder to step back and recognize that the relationship lacks the foundation of mutual respect and genuine intent. It's important to understand that commitment isn't just about grand gestures or formal declarations. It's about consistent actions that demonstrate care, accountability, and shared responsibility. A man who truly values a woman will show it through his willingness to invest in the relationship and work toward building a future together. Avoiding commitment, on the other hand, is a clear indicator of selfishness and a lack of respect for her time and emotions. Recognizing this behavior is crucial, as no one deserves to be left in a state of uncertainty or to feel as though they are constantly chasing something that may never come. A healthy relationship is built on mutual clarity, respect, and shared effort. Anything less falls short of what a partnership should be. When a man is using a woman, one of the clearest patterns of behavior is his inconsistency. This inconsistency often leaves her feeling confused and emotionally unsteady as he shifts between being attentive and distant, kind and cold, or reliable and unreliable based on what suits him at the moment. His behavior isn't a matter of unpredictability due to circumstances, rather it's a deliberate tactic to maintain control and avoid accountability while reaping the benefits of her loyalty and affection. At times, he may show a burst of interest and attention, making her feel valued and special. These moments are carefully timed, often following a period of emotional withdrawal or neglect. For example, if she begins to express frustration with his behavior or question his intentions, he might suddenly become affectionate, promising change or engaging in gestures designed to reassure her. This temporary shift in behavior creates a false sense of hope, leading her to believe that things will improve. However, this phase never lasts. Once he feels that she is emotionally drawn back in, he reverts to his indifferent or self-serving ways, leaving her in the same cycle of doubt and insecurity. This back and forth dynamic also plays out in his communication. When he wants something or needs her support, he might flutter with calls, texts, or attention. But as soon as his needs are met, he may become distant, ignoring her messages or failing to follow through on plans. This inconsistency keeps her guessing, wondering what she did to cause the change in his behavior. Over time, she might start blaming herself, thinking that she needs to do more to keep him engaged or happy. This is exactly what he wants, her focus to remain on pleasing him rather than recognizing the imbalance in the relationship. His inconsistent behavior also shows up in how he handles promises and commitments. He might agree to plans or make promises in the heat of the moment, but when it comes time to follow through, he often has excuses or simply doesn't show up. For instance, he might promise to attend an important event with her or support her during a challenging time, only to back out at the last minute. These broken promises aren't occasional slip-ups. They're part of a pattern that reflects his lack of genuine care or reliability. By failing to be dependable, he subtly communicates that her needs and expectations are secondary to his convenience. Another way his inconsistency manifests is through his emotional availability. He might be affectionate and attentive one day, sharing intimate thoughts or expressing what seems like genuine care. Yet the next day, he becomes distant, emotionally unavailable, or even dismissive. This unpredictability leaves her constantly questioning where she stands in the relationship. She may find herself trying harder to connect with him, hoping to bring back the version of him that once seemed engaged and caring. But this cycle only benefits him, as it keeps her invested while he remains free to prioritize himself. What makes this inconsistency so damaging is its cumulative effect. Over time, it erodes her sense of stability and trust in the relationship. She may feel as though she's walking on eggshells, unsure of how he'll react or whether he'll show up when she needs him. This emotional instability not only impacts her confidence, but also her overall well-being, as she struggles to make sense of his behavior and the mixed signals he sends. In a healthy relationship, consistency is key. Genuine care and love are shown through actions that align with words, and a partner who truly values the relationship will strive to be dependable and reliable. In contrast, a man who is using a woman thrives on inconsistency because it allows him to maintain control while avoiding accountability. Recognizing this behavior is essential because no one deserves to feel uncertain or unsteady in a relationship. True partnership is built on trust, consistency, and mutual respect, qualities that form the foundation of a healthy, supportive connection. And one of the most insidious effects of his behavior is the erosion of her self-worth. Over time, his actions chip away at her confidence, making her question her value, her decisions, and even her own perception of the relationship. This subtle form of emotional manipulation is often difficult to pinpoint, but it is one of the most damaging aspects of being in a one-sided exploitative relationship. What starts as small comments, dismissive gestures, or a lack of appreciation gradually builds into a deeper sense of insecurity, leaving her feeling inadequate and unworthy of respect. At first, this erosion may seem small, perhaps a few offhand remarks about her appearance, her abilities, or her decisions. These comments, while seemingly harmless on the surface, are often designed to undermine her confidence. He might make a joke about her appearance or criticize her choices in a way that makes her second-guess herself. These remarks are often framed as harmless teasing or constructive criticism, making it difficult for her to recognize them as tactics of control. Over time, though, these repeated comments add up, and she begins to internalize them, seeing herself through his critical lens instead of her own. As the relationship progresses, his behavior often escalates. He may dismiss her achievements or belittle her ambitions, making her feel as though her efforts are not enough. For example, if she succeeds in her career or accomplishes a personal goal, he might downplay her success or suggest that it wasn't as impressive as it seemed. This subtle undermining creates an atmosphere where she feels as though she can never measure up, no matter how hard she tries. She begins to doubt her abilities and in turn becomes more reliant on him for validation, hoping that his approval will fill the void he has created. Another key element in the erosion of her self-worth is his inability to recognize or appreciate her contributions. When she does something kind for him, whether it's a thoughtful gesture, emotional support, or an act of love, he often fails to acknowledge it. In some cases, he may even take it for granted as if her efforts are just expected. This lack of appreciation sends the message that her contributions are not valuable, leaving her feeling invisible and unimportant. And by doing so, relieving her feeling invisible and unimportant. Over time, she may begin to believe that she has to work harder, do more, or be perfect to earn his approval or love. This constant striving without receiving validation can erode her sense of self and her understanding of her own worth. His emotional unavailability and neglect also play a significant role in undermining her confidence. If she continuously opens up about her feelings or concerns, and he responds with indifference or dismissiveness, it sends the message that her emotions do not matter. She may begin to feel that her needs are a burden or that her feelings are unimportant in the grand scheme of the relationship. This emotional neglect makes it increasingly difficult for her to trust her own instincts, as she begins to doubt her right to express herself or ask for what she needs. Additionally, his inconsistency and lack of commitment only contribute to her growing insecurity. If he is hot and cold, affectionate one moment and distant the next, she may start to question her own role in the relationship. She might wonder if she's doing something wrong or if she's somehow unworthy of his full attention and commitment. This uncertainty leads her to question her value as a partner, especially when he refuses to provide clarity or commitment. She might even begin to doubt her ability to have a healthy relationship, believing that she isn't deserving of one or that no one else would treat her better. The cumulative effect of all these behaviors is a woman who feels small, insignificant, and unsure of her worth. She may begin to accept his behavior as normal or even as something she deserves, internalizing the false narratives he's constructed about her. What once may have been a strong, confident individual becomes a person who feels unworthy of love, respect, or happiness. Recognizing this pattern is crucial because no one should ever feel diminished in a relationship. A healthy relationship is supposed to empower both partners, allowing them to grow, feel valued, and trust in their own worth. The erosion of self-worth is a clear indicator that something is wrong, and it is vital to address this issue before it leads to long-term emotional damage. No one deserves to be in a relationship where they are made to feel anything less than valued and respected for who they truly are. When a man is using a woman, one of the most telling signs is his tendency to manipulate her emotions to serve his own interests. Emotional manipulation can take many forms, but it always centers around control and self-gain. At first, it may seem subtle, almost imperceptible, as he uses charm and flattery to win her trust. He might say things that make her feel special or unique, only to later twist those same sentiments into tools of guilt or obligation. For example, he may remind her of all the wonderful things he has done for her, implying that she owes him in return. This creates a cycle where the woman begins to question her own emotions, feeling torn between gratitude and unease. As time goes on, his manipulation becomes more pronounced. He may use her vulnerabilities against her, turning intimate moments of trust into weapons for control. If she shares her insecurities or fears, he might bring them up in arguments, subtly suggesting that she isn't good enough, or that she's lucky to have him. This is designed to lower her confidence and make her believe that leaving or questioning him is not an option. It's a slow process, but over time, the woman might start doubting her own perceptions and instincts, believing that the problem lies within her instead of recognizing the toxic dynamics at play. A common tactic in emotional manipulation is the use of false promises. He might tell her what she wants to hear, promising change or a better future, only to consistently fall short on those commitments. For instance, he might say he's ready to invest more in the relationship, make amends, or prioritize her needs, but his actions rarely align with his words. This inconsistency keeps her emotionally hooked, hoping that this time he will follow through. The promise of change becomes a powerful tool to maintain control, as it keeps her focused on an idealized version of the relationship rather than facing the harsh reality. In addition to false promises, guilt is another weapon often wielded by a man who is using a woman. He might make her feel responsible for his struggles, failures, or unhappiness. For example, if she expresses concerns about his behavior, he might respond by saying she's overreacting or being ungrateful, shifting the blame onto her. This tactic not only silences her, but also makes her question her own perspective. Over time, she may start suppressing her own needs and desires to avoid conflict or further manipulation, prioritizing his well-being over her own. Flattery can also play a deceptive role in emotional manipulation. While compliments and kind words are healthy in a relationship, a man who is using a woman will often weaponize flattery to his advantage. He might shower her with praise when he wants something, making her feel valued and appreciated temporarily. However, once he achieves his goal, the compliments stop and the cycle of manipulation continues. This creates a confusing emotional landscape where she constantly seeks validation from him, unaware that it's a calculated tactic to keep her emotionally invested. Ultimately, emotional manipulation is about maintaining power and control in the relationship. It's not always loud or confrontational. Often it's quiet, calculated, insidious. The woman may not even realize what's happening until she finds herself feeling drained, confused, and disconnected from her own emotions. Recognizing these patterns is crucial because emotional manipulation is a clear sign of a relationship that is not rooted in mutual respect or genuine care. No one deserves to feel like they're being controlled or taken advantage of, especially by someone who claims to care for them. Relationships should be a source of growth and mutual support, not a battlefield for manipulation and self-interest. Number 6, relinquish control. When a man is using a woman, one of the clearest signs is his lack of genuine care for her well-being. This behavior often becomes evident through subtle, consistent actions, or the absence of them, that reveal where his priorities truly lie. While he may put on a convincing display of affection at times, his care is often superficial, only extending as far as it serves his interests. Over time, it becomes clear that he is more invested in what she can do for him than in truly supporting or valuing her as an individual. In a healthy relationship, care is demonstrated through attentiveness, respect, and mutual concern. However, when a man is using a woman, these elements are glaringly absent. He might routinely dismiss her feelings or avoid meaningful conversations when she needs emotional support. For example, if she opens up about a difficult day or a personal struggle, he might offer a perfunctory response or change the subject entirely, signaling that her emotions are not a priority. All too often, over time, this pattern of disregard can make her feel as though her thoughts and feelings are irrelevant, leaving her to question her worth in the relationship. This lack of care also extends to moments when she needs his presence the most. When challenges arise, whether in her personal life or within the relationship itself, he may become distant or unavailable. A man who is genuinely invested in a relationship shows up during difficult times, offering comfort and reassurance. In contrast, a man who is using a woman often avoids these moments, unwilling to put in the effort required to provide real support. His absence in these critical moments speaks volumes about his true intentions and priorities. Additionally, his disregard for her well-being often manifests in his inability or unwillingness to compromise. In a balanced relationship, both partners work together to meet each other's needs, even if it means making small sacrifices. However, a man who is using a woman typically prioritizes his own desires over hers. For instance, he might expect her to adjust her schedule, change her plans, or cater to his preferences without considering how it affects her. Over time, this one-sided dynamic creates a relationship where she is constantly giving while he is only taking. Another key indicator of his lack of genuine care is his failure to notice or appreciate the little things she does for him. Whether it's acts of kindness, thoughtful gestures, or efforts to maintain the relationship, he treats them as expected rather than valuing or reciprocating them. For example, she might go out of her way to support him during a tough time, only to receive minimal acknowledgement or gratitude in return. This lack of appreciation can make her feel invisible, as though her efforts are unimportant or taken for granted. Even when he appears to care, his actions often feel performative, designed to create an illusion of effort rather than reflecting true concern. He might offer occasional grand gestures like buying her gifts or planning a romantic outing, but these moments lack consistency and depth. They are often timed to distract her from his other failings or to win her back after a conflict. Genuine care isn't about occasional displays. It's about showing up every day, even in small but meaningful ways, to demonstrate love and respect. In the end, a man's lack of genuine care reveals itself through his consistent inability to prioritize her as an equal partner. His actions or inactions send a clear message. Her needs, emotions, and well-being are secondary to his convenience. Recognizing this behavior is essential because no one deserves to feel unimportant or undervalued in a relationship. Look, true care is consistent, selfless, and grounded in mutual respect, and anything less falls short of what a healthy partnership should be. And his tendency to exploit her resources becomes one of the most evident behaviors. This exploitation can take many forms, but the underlying theme is always the same. He prioritizes his own gain at her expense, whether it's her time, money, energy, or emotional labor. He sees her as a means to an end rather than a valued partner. Over time, this one-sided dynamic leaves her feeling drained and unappreciated, while he continues to benefit without offering meaningful reciprocity. One common way this behavior manifests is through financial exploitation. He might borrow money under the guise of needing temporary support, promising to pay it back but never following through. Alternatively, he might expect her to cover expenses, from meals and gifts to larger financial commitments, without considering her own financial stability. While occasional financial support is normal in a healthy relationship, the key difference lies in the imbalance. In this dynamic, he takes without giving, often creating excuses or justifications to avoid contributing his fair share. The woman may feel obligated to continue helping, either out of love, guilt, or fear of conflict, but the burden of responsibility always falls on her shoulders. Beyond money, a man who is using a woman will also exploit her time and energy. He might expect her to prioritize him over everything else, often demanding her attention without regard for her own needs or commitments. For instance, he might interrupt her plans, ask for favors at inconvenient times, or rely on her to manage tasks he could easily handle himself. In doing so, he positions himself as the center of her world while offering little in return. This imbalance not only takes a toll on her schedule, but also leaves her feeling as though her own goals and priorities are insignificant. Emotional labor is another resource he is quick to exploit. A woman in this situation often finds herself acting as his therapist, cheerleader, or problem solver, constantly supporting him through his struggles without receiving the same level of care or effort in return. He might unload his problems onto her, seeking sympathy and advice, but when the roles are reversed, he's either unavailable or dismissive. This imbalance creates a dynamic where she is emotionally exhausted, yet her own needs remain unmet. Over time, this can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment as she realizes that her efforts are not being reciprocated or valued. End quote. Even her social connections and reputation can become tools for his benefit. He might use her friends, family, or professional network to further his own interests, often under the pretense of building relationships or seeking opportunities. For example, he might ask her to introduce him to someone who can help him professionally or socially, only to disregard her once he's achieved his goal. This behavior reveals his lack of genuine regard for her as a person, viewing her instead as a gateway to the resources and benefits she can provide. What makes this exploitation particularly damaging is its cumulative effect. Each instance might seem small or insignificant in isolation, but together they create a pattern of behavior that leaves her feeling used and undervalued. She might begin to question why the relationship feels so one-sided, yet struggle to pinpoint the exact problem because the exploitation is often disguised as normal relationship dynamics. He might justify his behavior by appealing to her kindness, love, or sense of duty, making it harder for her to recognize the imbalance. The truth is, a healthy relationship is built on mutual respect and support. Both partners contribute equally, whether it's financially, emotionally, or in terms of effort and time. When one partner consistently takes without giving, it's a clear indication that the relationship is not rooted in genuine care or love. Recognizing this behavior is crucial because no one deserves to be treated as a resource rather than a person. Relationships should empower and uplift both partners, not leave one feeling depleted and unappreciated.